Hey guys, welcome to my channel, and today I'm going to be telling you how I found out I was pregnant at 17 and currently still am pregnant at 17. So basically, a lot had happened. It wasn't smooth. I wasn't living with my parents. I had decided to leave home a month after I'd turned 17 to live with my boyfriend because I had fallen out with my parents, and especially my mum, and a lot of arguments were happening. And one day it got too bad, and I left my house, and I left without a phone and everything, and that was that. And I didn't keep in contact with them, and then a few days later I'd got myself a phone and I'd just texted them. I said, this is my new number. They weren't really talking to me, I wasn't really talking to them, and that's how it was. And eventually we got talking more, but arguments were just arising. They weren't happy with how I'd handled things, and I wasn't happy with how they'd handled things. So we were just never getting on, and I kept missing college because I was going through a lot of depression at the time. It was a big change for me. I'd just left school a few months prior, and now I'm living without my parents. It was a big change, and there was a lot of drama. And this continued for months. I'd left in the October, and it lasted. I didn't see my parents on Christmas. And it turns out I had been pregnant during December, but I didn't find out until January because my boyfriend's sister had her period, and usually we were in sync. And I thought, well, that's weird. Why have I not come on? So I said, right, let's go get a pregnancy test because that's weird. I'm always on time. And I just had this gut feeling like that I was pregnant. I just knew that I was without even needing to take the test. I don't know why I knew, I just knew. So when I took the test, it wasn't really a surprise. I know what happens when you're not safe, so it wasn't a big surprise to me or my boyfriend. I did it to show my boyfriend. I was like, oh, I'm pregnant, and I said to him, look, I'm not gonna make any decision without your input. If you think we should keep the baby, then we'll keep the baby. If you don't think we should, then we won't. We'll have a couple of days, both of us, to think about it. And inevitably we did decide we wanted to keep the baby. Now in the meantime, I decided to I just called my dad. I still wasn't on good terms with them. I just called my dad and I said, look, I'm pregnant. There was just about 10 seconds of silence. And then my mom was with my dad at the time, and she was just like, I'm going to come get you. I said, okay. And I went round, and I think my mom and dad, they both wanted me to get an abortion. I could tell that's where they were at. They weren't very subtle with it. They thought it was stupid for me to keep a baby with my circumstances. Especially as the house that we were living in and are living in was my boyfriend's grandparents' house, and his grandparents had both passed away in this period of time as well. So the house was getting sold. So it's still up for sale, so we don't necessarily know what's going on with where we're going to be living by the time this baby's here too. But I knew in my head, deep down, as soon as I found out, I wanted to keep the baby. I was just a bit unsure because I was letting other people get in my head, but I knew deep down I want this baby. And I ended up just kind of arguing with my parents, and I was just like, can you just take me home? And we never really came to a conclusion, and I just hadn't really spoken to them, and I think I'd kind of just hinted towards them over a period of time that I was keeping the baby, and they hadn't really come around they didn't come around for quite some time. They just didn't agree with it. They thought I shouldn't keep a baby, which I thought was pretty hypocritical because my mom had me at 16. I thought she would understand, but she didn't, and it just made me more frustrated because I thought her, of all people, would understand what it's like. And eventually I think my parents, my mom wanted to cut me off and my dad didn't, and they'd had fallen out about it, and they decided, no, look, she's going to do what she wants to do. We're just going to embrace it for what it is. And they started to come around, and my mom took me to my first scan. She took me to the hospital with me and my boyfriend, and I could tell, like, you know, she still wasn't thrilled, but I could tell she was trying. At this point, I hadn't really spoke to my dad about it. I was avoiding speaking about it completely with my dad, to be quite honest, because I was scared of what he thought. As well as the fact that my boyfriend and my dad do not get on at all. So I was a bit like, I just don't want to talk about it with my dad. And then my mom paid for me to have a gender reveal scan earlier as well, and, you know, progression was made. I started to bite my tongue a bit, and so did my mom, and we started to get on a bit better. And she started helping out with things, and she'd brought some clothes and things for the baby for me, and she'd come and drop things around, and my dad came around too. My dad ended up, I found out I was having a baby boy, and I told my dad, and he was very happy about it, and, you know, obviously me and my boyfriend were happy. And since then, everyone has been really supportive. I think once my parents got over the fact, like, she's having this baby, they understood, especially because I had a scare. I had to go to hospital because I had a pain here. And I was in there for about a week. Turns out I had urine in my kidney, and they didn't know what it was. And I thought, am I going to have to get rid of the baby, because the baby's growth going to make it worse? And that's when I realised, I think everyone realised, like, how much we wanted the baby, and how much we actually all grew to care about a baby that we haven't met yet, at the thought of we might have to lose this baby. So they that then made me realise how much I definitely wanted the baby, and my parents definitely wanted me to have the baby, and they're very supportive now, and they're very excited all the time talking about the baby. It's gone from being a negative thing to a positive thing. Now, in the meantime, while all of this has happened, me and my boyfriend got kicked out of here, and then we went to live with my boyfriend's manager, which was quite far away. And then we ended up not getting on there as well. So then we left there and went to live somewhere else with... it was a pretty overcrowded house, so it wasn't an ideal situation there either. And we've somehow ended up back here. So I'm 25 weeks now. All that's happened in this space of time. It's been pretty stressful for me, but we're settled here now, and when the baby comes, I'm going to move back in with my parents if this house is sold, until me and my boyfriend can get something sorted. My boyfriend started working, and we're saving up money, and everything is kind of, it's coming together. Compared to when I found out I was pregnant, it seemed like my whole world was falling apart, but I just knew I wanted this baby. And I know a lot of people would say it was just stupid, you weren't financially able, but it didn't matter to me, because I know that people can do it, and to me, this is just something that I wanted, and as long as my boyfriend was happy with it too, then that confirmed 100% that I was going to have this baby. And my boyfriend and his family have been very supportive. They weren't at first either. They were saying, no, get rid of it, like, don't be stupid, blah blah blah. But they've ended up coming around now too, after they've realised, like, look, we're not getting rid of the baby. So, and that's where we're at, and we've got a baby boy due on the 4th of September, and that is my story. Now, I'm sure everyone's got their own stories. If you'd like to share, that would be great. I'd love to hear everyone else's pregnancy stories, because I know mine was a lot, and there's a lot of details that I'd missed out because they're not very relevant, but I'm sure everyone else has got some interesting stories that I'd love to hear, and I'm definitely going to keep posting, sharing my pregnancy journey. Thank you for listening and watching my video. I'll see you in the next one.